The Watcher in the Cornfield. Ella loved her grandparents' farm, but she hated the cornfield. It stretched endlessly behind the house, a sea of green stalks whispering in the wind. Every summer, her parents dropped her off there for 2 weeks while they went on vacation, and every summer, Ella avoided the field. But this summer was different. Her grandfather had passed away last spring, leaving her grandmother to tend the farm alone. Ella offered to help, despite her unease. On her first day, as she helped her grandmother hang laundry, the old woman sighed, gazing at the cornfield. "Don't stay out after dark," she warned. Ella paused. "Why not?" Her grandmother's face darkened. "The Watcher doesn't like to be disturbed." Ella laughed nervously. "The Watcher?" Her grandmother didn't answer, just turned back to the laundry with shaking hands. That night, Ella lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows. She thought of her grandmother's warning and tried to brush it off as an old superstition. But then she heard it faint, rhythmic rustling. It wasn't the wind. Creeping to the window, she peered out. The cornfield was a black mass under the moonlight, the stalks swaying gently. But there, in the center of the field, she saw it, a shadow, tall and impossibly thin, standing motionless among the corn. Her breath caught. She blinked, and the figure was gone. The next morning, she tried to bring it up, but her grandmother changed the subject. That evening, Ella decided to face her fear. Armed with a flashlight and her phone, she ventured into the cornfield. The stalks towered over her, their rustling filling her ears. She walked for what felt like hours, the rows stretching endlessly in every direction. She was about to turn back when she saw it again, a shadow, taller than any human, standing perfectly still ahead of her. "Hello," she called, her voice trembling. The shadow moved. Ella froze as it stepped closer. Its limbs were unnaturally long, its head tilting at an impossible angle. Its face, or lack thereof, was a void, a blackness that seemed to swallow the light of her flashlight. It spoke, though its mouth did not move. "Why are you here?" Ella stumbled back, her heart pounding. I didn't mean to disturb you." The Watcher tilted its head further, the motion inhuman, boneless. "Then run." She didn't need to be told twice. She sprinted back through the corn, the stalks slapping against her arms and legs. She didn't dare look back, but she felt it, something chasing her, its presence pressing against her spine. When she finally burst out of the field, she collapsed on the porch, gasping for breath. She looked back, expecting to see the shadow at the edge of the corn, but it was gone. Her grandmother was waiting in the doorway. "You saw him," she said quietly. Ella nodded, trembling. Her grandmother sighed. "He keeps the field alive. Keeps the crops growing. But he doesn't like visitors." Ella didn't sleep that night. The next morning, her grandmother sent her to town for supplies. When she returned, the house was quiet. Too quiet. "Grandma," she called, stepping inside. No answer. She searched the house, then the barn. Nothing. Finally, with dread pooling in her stomach, she approached the cornfield. The stalks swayed gently, as if inviting her in. At the edge of the field, she found her grandmother's shawl. It was draped over a post, tied neatly, as if placed there deliberately. And next to it, in the soft dirt, were footprints, 2 sets, side by side. One was her grandmother's. The other was impossibly large. Ella backed away, but before she could run, the stalks parted, and the Watcher stepped out. It didn't speak this time. It didn't need to. The last thing Ella saw was the black void of its face as it reached for her. When the townsfolk came looking days later, they found the farm empty. The cornfield was taller than ever, its stalks greener and thicker than they'd ever seen. And deep in the field, if you listened closely, you could hear faint whispers. They sounded like Ella.